looks like it's going. All right, so Zoe, correct, is working on this Winnie, and it's looking fantastic at this point. So what we want to do is basically approach this almost like you would a jack-o'-lantern or a pumpkin carving, because when you cut off and give this a lobotomy, which is what I usually like to kind of call it, you're going to want to be able to remove the piece that you're taking off and then replace it or return it and not have it just fall through. So as you're cutting a hole into it, make sure that you're cutting with your blade at an angle. And so my knife was kind of at a 45-degree angle the whole time that I sliced that apart. And then I will lift the lid off. And then what I like to do, I'm not sure yet, looks like pretty good, is I like to take a skewer, sharpened skewer or sharpened pencil, and kind of just draw a reference line as to how thick I really want this to really be. Then I've grabbed this hoop tool, which helps you to kind of remove some of the excess clay. So removing the excess clay allows you to potentially discover air bubbles that you might have missed in the construction of your sculpture. It also reduces the weight of your project. You might have noticed as the more clay you add, the more details that you're adding, it's getting heavier and heavier. And potters and ceramists, if you will, are constantly trying to make their projects a little bit lighter, especially if it's going to have function that you have to hold it, carry it, whatever. The heavier it is, the more potential you have for dropping it, breaking it, whatever. So I have removed a lot of the excess clay from the top here, and then you can just come back with your fingers and kind of smear and smudge that and make it look more smooth on the inside. You could even write a poem in here with your skewer if you want, or whatever. That way, as somebody takes the lid off, they discover something inside that they couldn't have anticipated. It's kind of fun to kind of do that type of stuff, okay? So I'm sure that Zoe will probably want to change how this lid works, but all she really has to do now is score and slip here, and then replace this when she's done carving out the insides, and smear the seams, and it will be as if it never even happened, like you didn't do the lobotomy, right? And then she can cut off the lid to be the exact shape and size that she wants for, I think she wants this to be a honey pot. Okay, perfect. And then you might want to think about, if you're going to use one of those honey sticks, like creating like a little trap door, if you will, or a little, almost like a doggy door. So that when you do close it, you don't actually have to take the stick out every time. The stick can stay in there, and it will just have like a little passage for it. So when you look at Zoe's project, you'll notice that it's pretty thick in certain areas inside here. So she can make this bigger if she needs to have better access. That's just fine. One of the things that I like to take advantage of when we've done this is when we put the two pinch pots together originally, we pinched and smeared the seams on the outside, but now we have the opportunity to actually smear the insides and then really ensure that that connection is really bonded well from the inside as well, okay? And then if there are areas like her cheeks that maybe are a little bit more difficult to reach in and carve out with the hoop tool, then I very much encourage you to take a needle tool or a skewer and then poke. And what I like to do is I like to put my hand on the outside and then poke through. And you can actually, if you're doing it slowly, you can kind of feel it coming to the surface. It's kind of, it's amazing how the sense of touch that we have, you can kind of feel this thing coming to the surface, and that way you don't actually poke all the way through, but you're poking and leaving little holes in here that you're not going to smear and cover on the inside. But this would prevent it from, again, exploding, because these cheeks are definitely thicker than her thumb. If she doesn't want those holes, then if she takes the time to do the carvings and carving it out, then you don't have to poke holes, but holes are good for like eyebrow areas that are maybe a little bit more difficult to carve out. But there are smaller hoop tools in the same drawer that it has the needle tool, and you can always use these to do more detailed carving, okay? And stuff like that. So then when she decides to put her ears on this, the ears, as she puts them on here, can become the handles that then removes the lid. The other thing that she might want to think about, or anybody that's creating a vessel that has a lid, is that this would rest pretty well the way it is currently, but you might want to add what we call like a flange. And so you score and slip, and I'm not going to do it in front of you guys right now, but you would put like a little flange on the inside of the lid like this, and then that flange would allow you to kind of, and you could just do it like maybe on, could be a couple small ones like here, and then another one not quite opposite but right here. And they don't have to necessarily hook, but they could kind of be so that when you slide this on, it pops in, and then that really holds it on. Okay, so you have to kind of play with that and figure out how does it slide on such that you're going to be able to take it off again. Okay, but that'll prevent it from, like, as you're carrying it around. Right now it's sticky, it's wet, it's sticky, it doesn't seem like it's going to slide off. Think about this as a rock, and it's two rocks that are now stacked on top of each other. What prevents the top rock from falling off as you're carrying it? If somebody doesn't know that they need to hold that on while they're carrying it, your lid just fell off and broke. Okay? So you want to try to prevent those things from happening in the future. You want to keep this as long as you possibly can. Okay? So I just wanted to kind of address the lobotomy of your sculpture. And trust me, you're not destroying it. You're trying to prevent it from being destroyed. Okay? Good? Cool? Any questions? All right, that's what you got to do. I think I captured all that. Good.